Welcome to the Alcohol Minimalist Podcast. I'm your host, Molly Watts. If you want to change your drinking habits and create a peaceful relationship with alcohol, you're in the right place. This podcast explores the strategies I use to overcome a lifetime of family alcohol abuse, more than 30 years of anxiety and worry about my own drinking, and what felt like an unbreakable daily drinking habit. Becoming an alcohol minimalist means removing excess alcohol from your life so it doesn't remove you from life. It means being able to take alcohol or leave it without feeling deprived. It means to live peacefully, being able to enjoy a glass of wine without feeling guilty and without needing to finish the bottle. With science on our side, we'll shatter your past patterns and eliminate your excuses. Changing your relationship with alcohol is possible. I'm here to help you do it. Let's start now. Hello and welcome back to the Alcohol Minimalist Podcast with me, your host, Molly Watts, coming to you from, we're going to go with a Soppy, Oregon. From epic to soppy. Or no, I think maybe it was last week. Perfect? I don't remember. It's been really beautiful and it's rainy. And it's probably going to be rainy for, I don't know, months now. Hopefully not. We'll have some sprinkled in, some really beautiful days. But right now it is soppy. How are you doing? It is almost the middle of October if you're listening to this in real time. And I hope your More Sober October is going really well. I, for one, have been having a great More Sober October. I am on plan. And I have a very realistic plan around More Sober October. And that's part of what I talk about all the time. We want to make doable drink plans. We want to set ourselves up for success because really we're here for the long run to create sustainable change. So while doing months like this are always beneficial and prioritizing alcohol-free days is something that I think is valuable for all of us, really long-term sustainable change for the rest of your life. That's what I'm hoping to help you do. Today on the show, I'm taking a break from the theme of this month that I've been talking about, and I mentioned it last week. The theme I've been kind of going with during More Sober October is, who are you without the drink? Who are you? You know, you're an alcohol minimalist, right? A mindful drinker, an intentional drinker. These are the things that we want to incorporate into the narrative that we have about ourselves around alcohol. And most of you know that I have been a longtime partner with Sunnyside. Sunnyside recently launched something new in their program, and it's called Sunnyside Med. Every year, I try to catch up with Ian Andersen, who is one of the co-founders of Sunnyside, just to bring us up to speed on what's going on with the company. And we have a great conversation. And quite frankly, I think that if I don't have Ian on as a podcast guest anymore, I can barely get time with the guy. He's so busy. They're so busy over there. That's not true. He's always really responsive in terms of answering emails and things like that for me. But I really enjoy talking to him. And so it's fun to get to catch up. We had a great conversation about Sunnyside Med, and I wanted to share that with you because it's new and it's important. And if you're finding More Sober October to be a real challenge, then this is something that you might want to consider. Here is my conversation with Ian Andersen. Hey, Ian, welcome back to the Alcohol Minimalist Podcast. This evidently is going to become an annual ritual for us. And I'm glad because at least I get to see you. I feel like these days it's like longer and longer stretches that I don't get to touch base with you or catch up with you. So if I got to have you on the podcast to say hello, then so be it.
Right. We could probably spend this whole podcast just catching up personally, but I'm not sure our listeners would love that.
Yeah, probably wouldn't.
Great to be back. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's exciting times over at Sunnyside. And so I am just thrilled to not only catch up on the newest things that are happening, but just again, kind of bring everybody up to speed. You know, I've been talking about Sunnyside now for 3+ years, and I know, which is amazing. And it's been a continual growth and a journey for you guys in terms of last year. We kind of dove into a little bit of the business side of things and just the entrepreneurial, journey, which I think is important for people to understand too. You guys have been growing this from the ground up, and that's no small task and no small feat. And what you've accomplished in a pretty short period of time is really pretty amazing. And so I'm just, always proud to be a partner and love to share the story. But take me back, like we're sitting here September 2025. Does that tell me when you look back at your journey from the beginnings of Cutback Coach to where you are now with Sunnyside? What does that feel like?
Wow, what a great question. I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's been a pleasure having you as a partner too. I hope that never changes. What did it look like looking back 5 years ago? Well, we started in the pandemic,
Yeah, which
and
is weird.
yeah, I drank too much during the pandemic, so we started Sunnyside in a period of high need
Hmm.
for people. I mean that's the first thing that comes to mind, and the approach that we took was we wanted to be inclusive and gentle and not tell people that they had to quit drinking. We wanted to help people put a system in place to build some accountability and change their habits. That's all we really kind of built initially. The foundation was sort of the foundation and the philosophy of Sunnyside. Um, but if you fast forward 5 years, the thing that really stands out to me is like I think we went through quite an evolution in alcohol health in only 5 years.
I
I think that would
agree.
be hard to debate. I mean, thanks to people like you bringing more awareness to the science behind alcohol, um, what I think like really stands out to me, I think it was a Gallup poll recently that showed over 50% of US adults now look at moderate drinking as unhealthy. And this was on the back of the Surgeon General's announcement, I believe, last year saying that no amount of alcohol is healthy. And we have these reports saying that younger generations are drinking less than ever. So, something that really stands out to me with that positive evolution that's happening, which, like, by all accounts, it is a good thing that people are drinking less. It really strikes me that what that could potentially do is kind of sweep the issue under the rug for people who don't relate to that story, who don't relate to that narrative. So they're reading headlines that are saying Americans are drinking less than ever. We're on the right path. And yet millions and millions of people, I believe the number is 23 million US adults are still struggling with some form of alcohol use disorder in the past 12 months. And
Yeah.
the sometimes these headlines sort of just make it seem like we've solved the problem, and we've only just scratched the surface until move the percentage of people that are receiving care for alcohol use disorder from the I think 2%, 2 to 4% that it's at right now, to a much more respectable number. I just think we still have our work cut out for us. So what I
Yeah.
see in the past 5 years is a ton of progress. Apps and services and podcasts and Surgeon General are bringing awareness to the problem of over drinking, and yet there's still a ton to do.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that perspective. It's a really valuable perspective because I agree with you. There, there, you, the narrative does almost sound like, hey, almost everybody's like sober-ish these days, right? Like
Yeah,
it's kind of hip and kind of cool. And yet, I know both of us hear from many people who that's not their experience. They're still really struggling to make small changes and make things, really stick for themselves. And so that I appreciate that perspective. And I guess that also kind of marries in well with some of the new things that are happening around Sunnyside because I think
yeah,
so. Let's talk about Sunnyside Med because that is really like the latest and greatest and new thing that has been happening really, really new, like legitimately in the last
yeah.
right? In the
Well,
last.
we're publicly announcing it tomorrow. So
Okay, so yeah, we're right.
we're
Yeah. So
we're
this
right.
by the time it airs, yes, but I mean, so
Yeah,
it will have happened October 1st.
yeah. So actually, this ties into the evolution concept pretty nicely. I'll start I'll start the story with a little bit of history. So in 1994, the FDA approved a medication called naltrexone to be used for alcohol. And in this case, it was an opioid antagonist that was discovered to also work for alcohol cravings. So when naltrexone, when taken, it blunts the reward systems of alcohol. It makes it less appealing. It doesn't completely kill it. You can still get drunk and inebriated on alcohol. We can talk more about how that feels. And so that was FDA approved for alcohol use in 1994. And at some point in the past couple of years, I started paying more attention to this prescription medication called naltrexone, and then I still didn't fully understand it. And I think that's one of the challenges that we're up against is I don't think most people understand what the word naltrexone means. And I think when they hear things like opioid antagonist, it sounds like a really scary kind of hurdle
Yeah.
that you have to go over. Also, I I'm speaking from my own personal experience, but also from what we're hearing from customers. I was researching it and thinking, I'm already building this app called Sunnyside. It's habit change, it's coaching, it's community. I'm loving this, and I use Sunnyside, and I think it's amazing. If I were to use a medication, that would mean I have a bigger problem, right? Like me,
Right.
Ian, the person that started Sunnyside, I shouldn't have to use a medication. I started digging into it more and realized that these perceptions were completely wrong. Now, naltrexone is often not prescribed in the doctor's office, and there are reasons why we believe that that's not happening, but it is available through online pharmacies, through telehealth programs. And so I decided to try out naltrexone myself. So this is part of the journey that takes us to Sunnyside Med. So in late 2023, my father passed away, and I actually got through that period with like no drinking, and I was really proud of myself. But then sort of human nature caught up with me, and a few months later, I found myself kind of overdoing it a little bit. I was maybe a little bit of coping. I mean, yes, certainly coping, but it wasn't anything crazy. But what it was doing was sort of reminding me that even though I don't drink on weekends at all anymore, and like I have that, I'm very proud of that. If I do have a drink on the weekends, even if socially, I have a hard time stopping. And so I tried naltrexone, and my personal experience, it slashed the cravings on day one. And I could talk about my own personal experiences. It's pretty interesting. So here I was, the founder of Sunnyside, a mindful drinking program that I love, the healthiest drinking habits I've ever had, and yet I'm taking naltrexone. And I think that because I wanted to improve even further, and I just want to contextualize that because it's really, really important to what we're. It really speaks to what we're trying to do with Sunnyside Med. Sunnyside Med is a new program that offers access to compounded naltrexone for people that get approved by our clinician team. So we're partnering with a third party that provides access to doctors that prescribe the medication. And if you qualify, you'll get naltrexone via a compounded medication shipped discreetly to your door. And the way, yeah, so I can pause there. So
Yeah.
that's effectively the start of Sunnyside Med, but there's a lot that goes into it that makes it more than just a prescription as well.
Yeah. And one of the things that I always want to like clear up for people when I talk about naltrexone, and I've talked about it a couple of times on the podcast and just in general, sometimes when people think about taking a pill for alcohol, right,
Mhm.
they immediately think of something like antabuse, like something that's going to make them sick, right? Like that their thought process is to stop drinking, I need to not enjoy it. So therefore, if I get sick, then I won't, right? Like like that's the kind of mindset they come into it with regarding naltrexone. And it is not that kind of drug. And so I, and what I appreciate you sharing about your, your discovery on it is that it
is not necessary for people to, again, identify as having a severe or, moderate alcohol use disorder, severe alcohol use disorder.
Hmm.
It really can be just a helpful tool for people who are just trying to have a better relationship with alcohol in general. So, okay, so Sunnyside Med, you've partnered with an outside partner. I got that, the compounding, you have that process so somebody doesn't, has to qualify. I'm assuming like
Yeah,
get
correct.
a little bit of medical background and
Mhm.
understanding of, yeah, okay. So tell me what your personal experience has been when you take naltrexone. What does it A feel like? B, I think you already said, yeah, you can drink over it or you can get drunk,
Yeah,
even though. So
yep.
talk to me a little bit about what you've experienced because you've been taking it now for a while.
Yeah, it's been over a year actually. And I've had the pleasure of also starting and running weekly customer calls. So we have about 1,200 pilot members from Sunnyside, existing Sunnyside members who have started using Sunnyside Med, and we meet once a week in the evening to have group Zoom calls. And um, so I'll speak from my personal experience, but know that what
Yeah.
I'm sharing here is like very much corroborated by the experiences of other folks on Sunnyside Med. We can't say that anyone's guaranteed these results because it's medication, and we have to be
Right.
careful with how we say things like that. So this is my experience combined with what I've heard a lot of. So the first day that I took naltrexone, there can be minimal side effects. A lot of people will experience mild nausea, a little bit of dizziness. We highly recommend taking it when you don't have to go to work. Take it on a Friday, take it on a Saturday or something like that. And then side effects are typically mild and go away. So I didn't have strong side effects. And the way that I tried to describe it to my wife, like I think it was the first weekend that I took it, is trying to think about alcohol had no enjoyment. So I've always had this thing where just the thinking about alcohol will like give me a dopamine rush. I know I'm not unique with that,
Yeah.
and that's a real thing. Like the anticipation of
Of
drinking
course. Yeah.
can create this
It's
bubbly
anticipation of
dopamine feeling.
anything that you
Yeah,
are looking forward to enjoying or whatever
yeah.
is what dopamine's all about. Yeah, it's the
A hundred
anticipation.
percent, a
Yeah.
hundred percent. And I couldn't really get that rush from thinking about drinking. It was so weird. It was just like this little block. And I hadn't done a ton of research at that time, so I was feeling pretty intrigued by this. And so my plan was never to quit drinking, but to experiment with drinking while taking naltrexone because you do not have to actually stop drinking with naltrexone.
Yeah.
And in fact, um, research does suggest that it's more effective when drinking. We don't want to condone drinking here, but there's a way that the naltrexone working on the opioid receptors and in the moment of drinking, actually reducing the pleasure is like doing long-term rewiring. So the first time that I drank while on naltrexone, essentially it was hard to get through the second beer. That's the best way to put it. And we hear this a lot. People will be they're in their first week, they'll have a drink, and they'll kind of be like, "Well, the evening ended, and I realized I had only had a beer and a half, and I wasn't even really thinking about it." So it's it's this thing that kind of works in the background in a really nice kind of mellow way. It doesn't live like at the front of your mind, causing you anxiety, like, am I going to overdrink? Am I going to not enjoy this? It kind of just works in the background because it's decreasing the pleasure. Um, it will kind of remove the voice that can often kind of talk to you saying that you want to
Sure.
drink. And then in the moment of drinking, it can often be really helpful to just reduce binge drinking. Like let's just call it what it is. It really helps stop after one or two or three drinks. Now, this is me personally. There's like less science about what I'm about to say here, but it makes alcohol affect me differently. The buzz isn't as good. And I know for some people that doesn't sound appealing, but for me that was a good thing. It doesn't make me sick. It just the buzz isn't as fun. And again, that's probably naltrexone doing what it's supposed to, which is to
Yeah.
reduce the enjoyment and pleasure. So if the buzz isn't as fun, it makes the chase kind of not really exist.
Sure.
And I have found that taking over the course of the last year, like it is a bit variable over time. Some weekends it feels a little bit more impactful, but generally speaking, I'm drinking less than I ever have. So I've sort of accomplished that goal where I don't drink on weekdays, and now if and when I drink on weekends, it is less,
Mhm.
just less, and that feels really good for me personally. Um, yeah. So
Nice.
describing how it feels is like relatively simple, and yet very, very important for me, and
Yeah.
how and for my drinking habits.
So I want to clarify something that you're kind of, I think, saying, but I want to make sure that I've got it straight. You do not take it every day. You take it only on the days that you're going to drink, or do you take it every day?
So I take it every day.
You do take it every day.
I do,
Okay.
yeah.
And is that so? Is that the way that it is prescribed via Sunnyside Med? I asked that because I know there are other protocols with
Yeah,
naltrexone where you're only taking it like an hour or so before you go drink. So you're
yeah.
taking it just on a continuous basis. Okay.
Yeah, I could talk to that a little bit. So, our protocol is to take it daily, and that's what our doctors are supporting through the care team. So that's what they've been trained on.
Okay.
The from my research, most sort of large studies about naltrexone have been for daily compliance, and there are reasons to kind of recommend daily compliance. The main one is compliance. So,
It's just the compliance part. Yeah.
just the compliance. Taking it daily means that the effect of the opioid antagonist will be in your system uh, most of the time. So it stays in your system. It has a half-life of about 4 or 5 hours, and then it stays in your system for for about 48 hours. So by taking it daily, you're sort of keeping the
Right.
consistency of the effects in your system. For someone like for me, that's just nicer taking it daily because now there's no more cravings. Um, but let's talk about targeted for a second because it's a real thing. We can't ignore it, even though that's what we prescribe. Targeted is often called the Sinclair method, and
Right.
you take naltrexone an hour or two before your first drink. An hour or two has definitely been shown in studies to be most effective. So there's a reason that it's an hour or two before. And a lot of people on the Sinclair method, from my research, are seeking complete abstinence eventually. They have something called extinction that
Right.
is when you finally do reach complete abstinence. I mean, look, we support anyone making progress on their drinking habits. I highly recommend people do their own research on which is right for them. And if someone wants to come to Sunnyside Med and do targeted naltrexone, that's your call. We wouldn't stop you from doing that. There's no point at which we ask if you're going to take it daily. But the vast majority of our customers are taking it daily for the compliance reason, for keeping the effects in your system at all times, and not everyone knows when they're going to have a drink or
Right.
kind of be pulled in that direction.
Yeah. No, I think that that's having worked with people over the years that
Mm,
have taken naltrexone or have tried it, in the past, and one of the things that I find is that compliance is and can be an issue because not only is it a the situation of like remembering to take it, it's actually choosing to take it when
mm.
you're about to go out to drink, right? So
Yes.
you talked about that dopamine rush, that anticipation. So you're already getting that dopamine, going because you're like looking forward to going out and drinking. And now you're challenging yourself with this decision to take a medicine that is going to tamp down the enjoyment, right? So
Yeah.
it you can see the conundrum, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's an obstacle right there. And so I do think that I think that the protocol being on a daily basis just kind of takes that out of the
Oh man. Yes.
equation.
Can I speak to that for a
Yeah, for
second?
sure.
You just pointed out one of the most fascinating things about naltrexone, which is like, yeah, I'm about to have a good weekend. I'm going to a bachelor party. Should I make an exception for myself and
Right.
like let myself enjoy the alcohol to its fullest extent? Here's my 2 cents on that. Um, you can still get buzzed on naltrexone and you can still enjoy yourself. My argument is you're going to enjoy yourself more when you have control in your system. We're listening to this podcast. I take naltrexone because I have a hard time stopping. So if somebody's taking naltrexone, they're probably in a similar boat as me, and they want to, over time, build healthier habits and behaviors. So then you have to put yourself in your own shoes the next morning. What am I going to be most happy with the next morning? And it's most likely going to be that you had 4 or 5. I mean, we're talking a bachelor party here. So you had a few drinks and you didn't overdo it, and you woke up remembering the night and not being hungover. That's what's most important for building memories and events like this. So when we do get to those points where we want to make exceptions, I totally agree. Daily compliance. Yeah, I mean, case in point, it's just made it easier for me. I don't give myself the exception. I take it because it's part of my daily routines.
Yeah. And the I mean, I always say this to people because people ask me, they will point blank ask me, like, do you think it's that this is what, do you think it's okay if I don't take it, because they want the permission, right, to not to have the exception.
Yeah.
And I always I think that it's always that question. It's like not only will what you feel better, but I can guarantee you what I always tell them is I can guarantee you without question that I have never had anybody come back and tell me that they wish they had drank more, that they wish
Yeah.
they, that most everybody that does what they say they're going to do and they stick to their plans, they wake up feeling really good the next day. And nobody that overdrinks has that same experience, right? It's always the opposite. And so, like, we have to get to a point where we really trust that we are the makers of the fun. It's not the alcohol,
Yeah.
it's not it's the people that we're creating those memories with, it's what we're doing, it's the time that we're spending. That's what is important. And it's when you find yourself wanting to make exception or to give yourself, an out for why you don't want to follow a plan or follow the protocol or do something, we still have to go back to the beginning and ask ourselves why. Like, what is the story I'm telling myself? Because that, I guarantee you, is at the root of it all. It's always that story.
Right. It's probably more than the social situation. It's probably a desire to turn the brain off or to try to escape, which was certainly my motive overdoing it in years past. Um, yeah, I relate to that a lot. I I was talking to one of our customers who I think was on their first or second weekend with Sunnyside Med, and I love how people start Sunnyside Med and then throw themselves into their most challenging situations. It's really interesting.
Right?
Um, they were hosting their one of their regular football um, parties at their house, and he said point blank that this is one of those evenings where he would normally have a great time, overdo it, black out, and regret that the next morning. And he said on naltrexone, um, he stopped at like 2 drinks and still had just as much fun at the party and remembered everything and felt great the next morning. And what's really important about naltrexone is, naltrexone's not a silver bullet. Yeah,
Right.
you could take it long term. It's generally safe for long term use. I'm on my second year of it, but naltrexone gives you the space to start experimenting with things like that customer did. He kind of is learning a new pattern about where enjoyment can come from. Only a couple drinks, still enjoying connection with his friends. He doesn't need alcohol to connect with his friends, and it doesn't happen overnight. You got to repeat that pattern. You got to do the work, like you're talking about. You got to understand your why. But I love stories like that, and we're hearing that over and over again. So yeah, I mean, not a silver bullet, but for a lot of people, it can be either that starting point, that tool that helps them start, or the additional tool on their journey that they've already been on for a while to help them kind of get over that next step.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted you to come on and actually really talk about all this, because I think it's really important that people hear me say and hear you say, like, you've spent the last 5 years creating a really wonderful app and a really powerful program, and science backed and
Mhm.
dedicated to changing people's behaviors, right? and you are still pro, like, let's use this tool, let's use this medication to make that journey easier for someone if that's the case, that's what they need to make it to be their, whether it's their first step or their next step. It's it's a great tool to have. And people often say to me, well, you know, you must not you must not believe that naltrexone's a good thing because I haven't, I don't take it. I've taken it before just to try to see what it felt like once, but
Hmm.
it didn't really, I wasn't doing it I was honestly not doing it to try to change how I was going to drink that night. So maybe that's probably wise because I really wasn't, it was just trying to see if I like would get a headache or it would be dizzy,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Um, but I don't have the ongoing experience and I don't find that I struggle with sticking within my low risk limits. So that's
That,
for me,
yeah,
it's not it's not the choice. But
yeah,
I have no judgment in any sort of negative way. That's just my path, right? It doesn't make it the right path. And I still think, just
yeah, I
like
love it. Yeah.
like we've said, it's another tool in the toolbox. And I don't think it negates the need for changing, being able to understand those underlying questions and really figure out the why. Because no matter what, if you don't change your thinking about alcohol, you will continue to run up against it, whether or not run
Yes.
up against, over drinking, even if you're
Yes.
taking naltrexone.
So may I use this as a perfect segue?
Of course.
Um, so I couldn't agree more. And I hope I don't forget what I wanted to say because I want to start with one thing really quick here. The way you're talking about naltrexone as a medication is reminds me a lot of GLP-1s.
Yeah.
So GLP-1s are, I think everyone knows, it's the weight loss wonder drug of the moment. Ozempic is the sort of the popular brand name. And the way we look at GLP-1s, like it's still a new thing that is being researched and studied. So there may be some long tail things that we discover in a decade or two. But by and large, it's a very, very successful drug to help people lose weight. And one of the things that my co-founder and I were looking at and we really appreciate is it kind of like it moves weight management away from being like a moral failing of the person into something that's more biological. And by doing so, we take stigma out of way more out of the equation with weight management. And that's really important. And that happened overnight with GLP-1s. It was
Yeah.
crazy. And so now if you know someone's on a GLP-1, I think generally speaking, we're not judging them. We're happy that they're using a tool to make progress to live a healthier life. And we think there's a lot of parallels there with naltrexone to help remove stigma. Well, the stigma will be removed by like broader societal trends, I believe, but increasing adoption of naltrexone and prescribing it at moments that aren't quote rock bottom or when you're feeling at your worst when you walk into a doctor's office, like those are good moments to prescribe naltrexone for sure. But AUD is a large spectrum, and so I do believe that as we kind of move it up the spectrum, it'll help remove stigma because people like me, who I don't feel like I ever hit a rock bottom, but still wanted to help making change. It's not a moral failing on my part that I'm taking naltrexone. I feel empowered. I'm
Right.
excited by this. I feel healthier than ever, and I'm 40, and I still enjoy a bit of alcohol. Someday I'll probably quit drinking out of just pure health reasons alone, but that's a pretty cool experiment, I'd say, for myself. And I hope a lot of people can feel like they have access to modern tools like Sunnyside, like medication, like the combination of the both that um, will help them feel like they can make a change without stigma around it.
Yeah. And I think that continuing to talk, one of the things that I like about what you've experienced with naltrexone, and everybody hears me say it, and I'm not gonna like, and we hear all the science, and we know that the Surgeon General has come out and said there's no amount of alcohol that's safe, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not here to tell people that they should drink. There's no reason that anyone should add alcohol to their life if they're not already drinking.
Right.
That's the takeaway. However, we also know, and we cannot ignore, that millions of adults around the world enjoy
Yes.
including alcohol in their lives. And if they're going to do that, they should do it in a way that lowers their risk. Taking the GLP-1s, you got to lower your risk for heart disease. And if taking a GLP-1 helps you reduce weight, I mean, it's a big deal in the realm
Totally.
of heart disease. And that's the number one killer, folks. So why not
Yeah.
have a drug that helps people? Same kind of thing with taking naltrexone and doing it in a way that supports people without making them quit altogether. And that, I think, and I'm again, if being completely alcohol free is your goal, fine.
Mhm.
But for the people that I talk to, most of the people that I think use Sunnyside as well, that's not necessarily the goal. The goal is
Right.
to get into low risk limits and to really, work towards not over drinking, period. And I
Yes.
think that's the time, like
Yep.
not over drinking. And whether that's on a weekly basis or any time that you're going to include alcohol, whether it's on a Friday, Saturday, whatever night, that you don't overdrink when you do drink and that you don't, you prioritize alcohol free days, etc. The way that you and I talk about it, I feel like is the healthiest, most inclusive, most scientifically driven and fundamentally like accessible way to approach behavior change. And I think that's, why we've been partners for so long and why I see this as just another, positive iteration of the great work that Sunnyside has been doing.
Love it. Yes, we are very much on the same page. I don't know if you saw a recent interview that we did on Journey to the Sunny Side with Andrew Tatarsky. Um, he is, in some ways, like the grandfather of harm reduction. He's been studying it for and building
Right. Yep.
philosophy,
Yep. Yep.
like frameworks around it for like 30 years. And I don't even want to quote him, but if anyone's interested in hearing an incredibly succinct way of describing harm reduction and why it matters so much to build more inclusive models to welcome more people into making change, I would check that out. He is so good at it, so passionate about it. And I like to think that that's the model that we're following because the only way we're going to go from 28 million people experiencing AUD and helping only 2 to 4% of them right now. The way we're going to increase that is by offering harm reduction models that are more inclusive, and that don't tell people that the only way we can help you is if you commit to abstinence. I mean, abstinence is great, but I think for most people, a realistic pathway to get to abstinence is longer term and requires finding, experimenting, finding some stuff out on your own and reduction. Like you have to start with sort of a reduction approach, and then decide if abstinence is right for you. To me, that's a good path for to help way more people.
Well, I couldn't, of course, agree more because that's what I say too. But and I think that the the way that people get there, however that looks, uh, the best ways to do it. I mean, however that looks for whatever. It just kind of like you said, is like you got to keep trying, you keep doing different things, and I think that's
Hmm.
the the real takeaway here is this is another tool in the toolbox. And if
Yes.
what you've been doing till now hasn't been working, then, why not give Sunnyside Med a try? So,
Yes.
Ian, let's tell folks where they can check this out.
Yes, absolutely. So head over to sunnyside.co. if you're interested in learning more. We've updated our homepage and we have a clear pathway there to learn more about Sunnyside Med. That's the best way to find it. You can also Google search Sunnyside Med and find a landing page where you can learn more. Like I'm not suggesting anyone start medication. That's not really my business. Our care team will help you figure that out, and they'll prescribe the medication if you qualify. But one thing that I do want to make sure I get in here, squeeze in really quick, if you don't mind, is naltrexone on its own is an incredible tool, but it's not how we make long-term behavior change. Medication is not how we make long-term behavior change. And we're starting to see this in GLP-1s as well, where you have probably 100 companies selling pills, GLP-1 medications, and only a couple now starting to create this wraparound care, usually in the form of a digital app, human coaching, telemedicine, resources, and education. Because they're realizing that when people stop taking GLP-1s, they will rebound if they haven't fundamentally changed their behaviors around food. Take that over to alcohol, and it's exactly the same. Naltrexone isn't as popular as GLP-1s, but you can get the pill in different places. And at Sunnyside, for the same cost, you get the pill plus everything that we've been building for the past 5 years, that sort of wraparound behavior change care. So you get the daily habit change tools, the human coaching through text message, the community, and the education resources. So that's the magic of Sunnyside Med. It's not just medication. It's medication plus all of those pillars that we've been building for 5 years now.
That is awesome. Ian Andersen, great to see you. Great to catch up with you. And thank you for sharing all about Sunnyside Med here on the Alcohol Minimalist Podcast.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Awesome. And I'll put it in the show notes, folks, where you can link to Sunnyside. I think, like I said, you've all heard me talk about it a lot. So go check it out. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. And I know also that Ian has always been really good about answering listener emails as well. So, either one of us. And if you've got questions about Sunnyside or Sunnyside Med, please let us know.
Thanks, Molly.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks for listening to the Alcohol Minimalist Podcast. Take something you learned from this week's episode and put it into action. Changing your drinking habits and creating a peaceful relationship with alcohol is 100% possible. You can stop worrying, stop feeling guilty about overdrinking, and become someone who desires alcohol less. I work with people in 2 different ways, and you can learn about them over at my website. Go to www.mollywatts.com/workwithme or reach out to me directly. Shoot me an email, molly@mollywatts.com. We'll jump on a call and decide what might work best for you. This podcast is really just the beginning of our conversation. Let's keep it going. If there's one thing I know, it's that change is way easier when you stop trying to do it alone.